Join us September 12th in New York City as Digiday, Modern Retail, and Glossy bring together brand and agency leaders to connect as industry experts from Colgate, PepsiCo, and more dive into the rise of retail media and how it's begun to mature, providing an exclusive deep dive into the best practices and winning strategies. For a limited time, we are offering $100 off with promo code RETAILMEDIA, no spaces. Again, that's promo code RETAILMEDIA with no spaces. Learn more and register today at digiday.com/retailmedia. Join us at Glossy's Beauty and Wellness Summit from November 11th through 13th in Napa, California. Influential beauty and wellness leaders will meet to discuss strategies and pain points, discover innovative tech, and ultimately make valuable business connections through one-on-ones and casual networking. For a limited time, we are offering $200 off with promo code GBS24, no spaces. Again, that's promo code GBS24 with no spaces. Go to glossy.co/beauty summit for more information and to secure your pass today.
Hi, and welcome to the Glossy Beauty Podcast. I'm Sarah Creal, senior reporter for Glossy Pop and your host for today's episode, featuring Sarah Creal, beauty executive, serial entrepreneur, and founder of her namesake brand, Sarah Creal Beauty. Creal, like so many other forces in the beauty industry, started behind the counter at Clinique, but she worked her way up the chain and before founding her own brand was co-founder and CEO at Victoria Beckham Beauty. Now, she wants to change the game when it comes to luxury beauty for women over 40. On September 3rd, her tightly edited range of both skincare and color cosmetics will hit shelves at Sephora. On this week's episode of the Glossy Beauty Podcast, we chat about the moment she woke up, literally, and decided to launch a brand, her upcoming lipstick launch, and the fact that women still struggle to raise funds for their own ventures. Hi, Sarah. Welcome to the Glossy Beauty Podcast. I am so excited to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
We're going to have a great conversation, just two Sarahs talking about beauty. You have had such an incredible career working, just at the powerhouses, L'Oreal, Estee Lauder, Bobbi Brown, Ford Beauty. I mean, just like everywhere. And then most recently, before founding your own brand, co-founding and CEO of Victoria Beckham Beauty. And just a couple months ago, founding a namesake brand, Sarah Creal Beauty. Can you take us through just some of the highlights of really kind of like a legendary beauty career?
Oh, thank you. That's so nice of you to say. But, my career, I would say, has been built a step at a time. I didn't come blazing onto the beauty scene, trust me. My first job was standing behind the counter for Clinique at Bergdorf Goodman. And I did that right out of college. I knew I loved beauty from the time I was about 13. I realized it was actually a job. There was a job in there somewhere. And so I just pursued it in one job after another. I didn't even know that product development was a thing until I was given a really kind informational interview from this woman, Michelle Taylor, who was the president of Chanel at the time. And she granted me this informational interview. And through that conversation, I realized that product development existed. So then I applied for a product development job and I eventually got it coming out of sales. But that was a hard break to get. And I was so thrilled that I was given the opportunity. And that was on a brand called Ultima 2, which a lot of people are not going to remember. But it was a beautiful brand. And I went from there to, as you mentioned, L'Oreal and Bobbi Brown. I was her head of product development and marketing. And, really, I have to say, Bobbi gave me a shot at being her head of marketing. I was her head of product development. And she was like, I want you to be my head of marketing as well after about a year. And I was pretty terrified. I was like, I don't know what to do with a P&L. This is so scary. But she believed in me. And I've been really lucky to have people like that. And she's still in my life, and she's still such a great supporter. But people who see you for maybe more than you see yourself, I've had that. And I have to say that's been a big part of my career, having amazing partners, bosses, just people who really saw me and saw my talent more than I did and coached me along. So that's a big part of it. And then having great experiences with people who have unbelievable taste, really. Like I did the Prada Beauty line when I was 29 years old. It was the first one, obviously, because I'm 54 now. So not the most recent iteration. And, being able to work with Miuccia Prada was daunting and amazing. She's so creative, so genius, So all of these experiences just kept building on each other. And I have always loved luxury. So kind of taking my love of luxury and the learning experiences I was able to have with all of these great designers, Tom Ford, Victoria, has all kind of come together. And now I get to just do my own brand and take all that experience.
Yeah, you've really stayed in the luxury sector. So you really made yourself an expert in that space.
Yes. I dabbled once in something that was like not really luxury, not really for me. And I realized I really wasn't good at it. It's kind of like, I think, a writer, like saying, write what you know, develop what you know.
Yeah. How did you find that product development and marketing, worked well together or not?
Well, I had a situation where I was just the developer and there was a marketing team and I developed a concept, I developed the products, they worked together in a certain way. And then when it was launched, I didn't recognize it. And I was like, if I don't recognize it, the way that I put it together and the way that it made sense to me and the way that the products work together, how is a consumer going to understand it? And I was so disappointed in that experience. And so I think that laid the groundwork a little bit. And that was before I started working for Bobbi. But then when I got to Bobbi Brown and I started working for her, again, as the product developer, and then when she said, I want you to do marketing as well, I thought, I have to try this because there is something to be said for not only making what's inside the bottle, which is what product development is, but the outside of the bottle, which is the marketing piece, bringing those two together. Yeah.
Yeah. Although I feel like definitely not everyone can do both of that. So probably a testament again to your talent in the industry.
Thanks.
Did it feel like a leap going from, a conglomerate like Estée to helping Victoria Beckham build her brand?
For sure. Yes. Yeah. I mean, it was a very big leap because in a corporate structure, you have unbelievable resources. You have a group to do everything, and then you just kind of bring it together. With Victoria Beckham, I had to build the team, which was based in New York, and the company from scratch, literally a white piece of paper. So I started in January of 2019, and it was like, go, build a team, find the labs, create the brand architecture. What are we going to stand for? What's our point of difference? What is it going to look like? Who's going to be our creative director? And doing all of that and not knowing what I didn't know. But luckily I had, again, great partners there who helped me to craft really the team I needed.
And I think, again, like there's a lot, as anyone in beauty knows, so much skepticism around celebrity-founded brands. But one thing that when I look at Victoria Beckham Beauty, we honored Victoria on our Glossy 50 list last year. So I've had the chance to speak to her a little bit about the brand. It really is a luxury brand that, happens to be founded by a celebrity. But were you at all apprehensive? Like, what was that like going from, these Estee Lauder brands that are, legacy brands and sort of recognized as such to the celebrity beauty space that is sort of still emerging and comes with this different set of expectations and thoughts around it, if that makes sense?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't a totally foreign concept to me because I had done the Tom Ford beauty brand, and I had done that with Annie Carullo, who was the head of product development at Estee Lauder. But it was really a separate project. And I worked with Charlotte Tilbury, who worked on the paleting. This was before she had Charlotte Tilbury, the brand. And she was Tom's favorite makeup artist. And so she was involved. So when I started working with Victoria, she was another designer and yes, a celebrity, but it wasn't, a completely new concept for me. But what was new was when because I did 2 capsule collections with her at Estee Lauder. And so when I flew out to her house in LA the first time, I was so impressed. Not by the house, which was impressive, but by the fact that she had about 15 years of products laid out on her dining room table. And I was just so blown away. She took me through every product that she had saved and explained what she liked about it, what she wanted to change. She just had a vision and a passion. So that was a pleasant surprise because I hadn't had that before. And I had been in this position of, as the product developer, my job was basically to take people's DNA and put it into a product. And that's not an easy thing to do if people don't give you who they are. And she did.
Incredible. So you built that brand for a couple of years and you decided to create your own and even put your name on it. What, after this years-long career, what inside of you was telling you it was time to do that?
I literally woke up one morning from a dream and I sat up in bed and I was like, why is no one talking to me? Why is no one talking to me? I'm 54 years old and no one in the luxury beauty space is speaking to me at all. Not to me in a way I want to be spoken to. Not in a luxury way, aspirational way. Nobody's formulating for me, educating me. It literally was like a light bulb moment. And I just felt so strongly. And then, I kind of went through, well, what about this brand? Are they doing this?
Yeah.
What about this brand? Are they doing this? And I really could not find a brand that was specifically formulating for my generation, for 40 plus, and I knew I hadn't ever done it. I'd always developed for 20s and 30s. So, it was like I was part of the problem, which is hilarious now. But I really was. I was just like part of the system. And that's the way it's been,
Yeah. No, that's so interesting. And I mean, did you think of that as something in sort of like your life plan of like, I'm going to be a founder, I'm going to start a brand?
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
Wow.
I mean, I've had thoughts about it, but I really, I know how this business is. It is an extremely tough business. And it is a business that the bar to entry has gotten so low. Anybody can launch anything. There's a lot of what I call blanding out there, where you take one logo and you put it on another product and it all looks the same, and products that are just off the shelf. There's been no development, no design to it. So, I needed to have something that was really unique and different and powerful for me to do something, because I was good at being the second banana. I was really good at it. So it was only when I woke up with this idea and then I just felt so passionately about it because I was coming at it both from a personal standpoint. I had been hacking my own products, my own formulas that I had developed were no longer working for me, and I'd been hacking them, but I hadn't consciously thought about it. And, and then I was coming at it from just being a 54-year-old person, like here I am. And then coming at it from a product development standpoint, which is very exciting because this is super challenging. This is the hardest development I've ever done.
Is that because it's for an older demographic who maybe has more complex concerns?
For sure. For sure. Everything gets more challenging as you get older. It just does. The topography of the skin changes. You have lines, you have wrinkles. It's overlapping. So therefore it's rubbing on, itself. That impacts wear. The routine has gotten more complicated. You've added an eye cream, you've added a concealer. These are the things that impact wear on eye makeup. So it just becomes a confluence of events.
So what did you do, next for people who aren't so familiar with the brand yet? Like if someone wakes up in the morning and says, I'm going to launch a brand, there's obviously many, like you said, there are maybe perhaps too many avenues to starting a brand nowadays. What was yours?
Yes. Well, I knew when you create a brand, you have a very limited window to establish what that brand is going to be in the world. And, you only have one launch. And so the first thing I did was I double checked my thinking, which I always do. It's the most important thing in my career anyway, to have people around me who are smarter than me, know things that I don't know, and are honest with me. I don't hire any yes people. I'm not interested. So I called one of my favorite no people, and her name is Jill Golden, and she is my co-founder. And I called her and I was like, okay, I literally just woke up with this idea and I need to ask you, am I crazy or does this really not exist? And silence on her end of the line. And then she was like, nope, it really doesn't exist. And I'm like, oh my God. Okay. I'm like, do you want to do this? And she was like, hell yes, let's do this. And we met that day for lunch. And I know I have chills right now, even talking about it. We met that day for lunch and that was it. The brand was like off and running.
Had you left your job?
Yeah, I had.
Okay.
I had left and I knew I wanted to do something on my own, but it wasn't necessarily like to found a brand.
Yeah. You could have consulted. You could have, you had any opportunity.
Right. And I had a lot of celebrities calling me because at this point, it had been this long list of like Ralph Lauren, Miuccia Prada, Donna Karan, Bobbi Brown, Aaron Lauder, Tom Ford, Victoria Beckham, so I kind of became this like celebrity, go-to, right?
Yeah.
So I was getting a lot of those kinds of phone calls. And that's what I was really entertaining. But the universe had different plans. And that's how I feel about it. I feel like it didn't come from me when I was sleeping. It came from somewhere else because it was a fully formed idea. And, and then I called Jill and then we had lunch. And then shortly thereafter, and this coming from big beauty, like L'Oreal and Lauder, I was like, okay, we need to do a little market survey. Yeah. Let's just triple check that we're not the only ones who think that beauty for women above the age of 40 is a shit show. Like, let's see what other people think. So we surveyed 2,000 women above the age of 40, luxury beauty shoppers. And we asked them, how do they feel about beauty? How do they feel that they are being spoken to? Are they being reflected back to them? Are they being educated? All of the things I wanted to know. And I also wanted to know, is it challenging to navigate the beauty landscape after the age of 40? Which anecdotally, I knew it was. I knew it was for me. I knew it was for my sister. But I really wanted a solid statistical evidence that that was the case. So we did that. And from that research, we learned all kinds of things, including what were their pain points. So what were the problems that they were having in beauty? What were the things that were driving them crazy? But we asked at the very end of that survey, how would you feel about a brand that would formulate for you, educate you, reflect you back to you in all of the advertising, and really celebrate you? And 99% of those women said they felt a brand like that was necessary.
How did you find these 2,000 women?
Oh, I hired a company and paid a good chunk of money. A company called Ellipse out of Colorado. And they're all data scientists, PhDs. And we crafted this survey together so that we could really get factual data.
Did you self-fund the company?
Mm-hmm. I did. Okay. I did at the very beginning. I did. Okay. I started going out and trying to get funding. And that was incredibly challenging because I had a lot of people say to me, I just don't think older women want to look at other older women. I know, infuriating.
I mean, it's so misogyny, isn't it?
It totally is. It totally is. And I mean, the level of misogyny and, just basically female discrimination that happens in the investment sector is unbelievable. In 2023, Forbes has this statistic, they always look at where the investment went in the United States. And do you know 3.2% of the investment in 2023 went to female-founded brands? Yeah. And if you had a male partner, it went up to 16.8%. And then the rest went to all men. And to tell you the truth, Sarah, I thought I would be in that 3.2%.
Because it's like, if not you, who, frankly?
Right. That's what I thought. I had a lot of proof. But it turns out that this concept is very scary. And I don't really get it. But very scary. And so ultimately, I raised all of my initial funding. First, I put in a big chunk of my own money so that I could start tooling the products. And that means tooling the packaging.
Yeah.
So I started there. Jill and I both worked for free for months and months. And we just, built this thing. And so I knew from the beginning I had to put money in, because in order to create a luxury brand, you have to make the design beautiful, in my opinion. You really have to create something spectacular. So, and it was my name on it. I'm like, I'm leaving it all on the field. It's like I'm doing the whole thing.
I wanted to ask you about that. What was that decision to put your name on the brand?
I just, for a couple of reasons, really. We didn't start there. Jill and I didn't start with, we're going to put my name on the brand. But as we got into it, it became more and more clear that by putting my name on the brand, people are going to understand when they Google that I've been doing this for 30 years. I'm not somebody coming out of like an investment firm or data or PR or whatever it is. I'm actually a product developer who's been developing some of probably the products that you know and love over the past 30 years. So that was, kind of one thing. And the second was that if I didn't put my name on it, I would spend probably 5 minutes of every conversation explaining what my relationship was to the brand. So this way, we don't spend any time talking about the brand name except like the why. People are like, oh, got it.
Are you a beauty or wellness brand looking to showcase your work alongside the top in the industry? The Glossy Beauty Awards provides the opportunity to recognize your company's work with categories including Skincare Brand of the Year, Beauty CEO of the Year, Beauty Brand of the Year, and many others. This is your chance to showcase the campaigns, initiatives, products, and practices that make your brand truly stand out. Join the esteemed ranks of past winners like Rare Beauty, Olaplex, and Ulta Beauty. Discover more and start your entry at glossy.co/awards/beauty.
Okay, so you bootstrap this brand, you guys work on it, you put the research in to sort of prove your concept, and you launched with a really interesting curation of products across skincare and makeup. Why did you decide to sort of off the bat go into both categories?
Well, most of the genesis of the product lineup came from either conversations with friends and family, women above the age of 40, or the survey that we did. And it was very clear that there were some certain things that women were extremely frustrated about that I needed to solve before I could move on to makeup. So there were certain skincare needs that had to be met for this consumer before I could really go into makeup. So that's why I did both at the beginning. And I also created this lineup so that women could see what it means to use products that are compatible with each other. When you use these products, they're all synergistic and you can layer them on top of each other. They're not going to pill. They're not going to look weird or streak. And, one of the things that I realized from the survey was that women, especially as they get to about 50, are quiet quitting mascara. And I was like, why are they stopping using mascara? And I'm like, oh, it's probably because they're using their traditional mascara that they loved, like when they were in their 30s. And that makes sense because when you're in your 30s, like you have great lashes, super lashes. And a traditional mascara just uses balls to sort of give an optical illusion of a thicker fringe. But when you get to the point where you're in your 50s, like I am, you have fewer lashes. And those lashes show the balls when you're using a traditional mascara. So it doesn't look great. So maybe women are stopping because it doesn't look great. But I realized from many conversations that I had with women who had stopped using mascara that another reason was because it was transferring under their eyes. And I realized that probably from the time that they're in their 30s to their mid 50s, what they had done was add other products like an eye cream, like a concealer that have oils that sit on top of the skin that were acting as a makeup remover to that traditional mascara.
Interesting. Okay.
And so they just see at the end, like, oh, my mascara is not working. I'm going to quit using mascara. And I thought, I can create an eye cream that really absorbs in the skin, puts moisture deep in the skin where it belongs. I can create a concealer that's super thin and floats on top of the skin, but sets and doesn't dry over the 12 hours that it's there. And then those things can work with the volumizing tubing mascara that is back of the cab.
Love it. Yeah. I'm sure you're working on this, but like one of the things I think of when I think of that demographic, just from conversations I've had, is like eyeshadow. Such a big struggle when like the eyes get a little crepier and have a little more wrinkles. Yeah, you're giving me a look that you're like, I've thought about this, obviously.
Yes. I mean, eye makeup is the biggest challenge.
The biggest challenge.
For sure. And eyeshadow is a challenge. Doing an eyeliner that really stays, but also has the gentle slip and glide that you want as your skin gets thinner. This is like the holy grail for me. I'm working on it. I've created a couple of kajals in my time, and I'm proud of every single one of them, and they're beautiful. But at this age, I need something that is really going to work in a different way. So yeah, I'm working on that.
So we've established that eyes have been really difficult to formulate for. You've started with mascara. We kind of get the sense that more is coming. And I know that your next launch is coming just a few days after this episode is going live. It is a lipstick. I just want to say, by the way, I'm not typically a lipstick girl, but I was at a tennis game last night and I brought the lipstick and oh my God, it's so good. I was wearing the shade adorably slash like poignantly named Pink Tax. I reapplied it like 45 times. I loved it.
Oh, thank
And I
you.
think you have 10 shades coming out.
We do. We have 10 shades, and all of them have a little bit of this sort of women's rights, feminist vibe going because we just thought, why not? So the lipstick is called Speak for Yourself, and it's a hydrating lipstick, which is why it feels great to put it on. You know, the application increases hydration in your lips by 16%. So everything that we do is clinically tested, which is something I feel really strongly about because as much as I'd love for everybody to just believe me about the product being great, it's really important to test these products in a third party lab and have clinical tests conducted. So anyway, this is a hydrating lipstick, and we have created 10 shades. So they all have kind of, I would say, like provocative names, like Red v. Wade, Mansplain, Pay Equity, Pink Tax, which is your favorite, Invisible Labor, et cetera, et cetera. So, oh, and SheEO, can't forget that, which is one of my favorites. So we are launching that, and that's launching in just a couple weeks. And then we are also launching with that a product. So this is the lipstick, which you know. And then we're launching Lip Grip, which is this product. And, you know, the thing about getting older and makeup, I joke that it's a little bit like windshield wipers. Like you don't need it until it's raining. You don't need them until it's raining, right?
Yeah.
And with makeup products, you don't know that you need something different until your mascara is like down to your nose, right? Same with lipstick. So a lot of women love lipstick. They love the form. They love the chicness of the package. They love the gesture when you're opening it up and you're putting it on. You know, it's a whole feminine, fabulous thing. But the reality is, as you get older, you get lip lines, right? And lipstick can travel in those lip lines, and nobody wants that. So I invented a very new kind of product called Lip Grip Line Filler. And this is a peptide-infused treatment that you put on your lips as a base coat, and you coat your lips, and then you can also put it around your mouth because it has optical blurring. So it softens the look of lip lines around your lips, and then you just follow with your lipstick, and that increases the wear of your lipstick significantly. And Lip Grip itself wears for about 12 hours.
I mean, you guys really also the custom packaging on this is beautiful. I know you guys can't see it. It sort of has a mint green top and a gold bottom in sort of this curved shape that some of Sarah's other products like her concealer have, which I know is like a really big investment for a brand to make in this kind of custom packaging.
It is. It is. But, you know, it's so worth it to me. And that's why, like, I love luxury because, yes, it costs a lot of money to make it. But, you know, once you do it, it's done. And it just makes the brand so aspirational and beautiful, I think.
Yeah. And in terms of the names, is this sort of the first time that the brand has sort of leaned into sort of a feminist point of view? And will you guys talk to the customer about that at all?
You know, we will talk to the customer about it. And it's not necessarily like the first time because there's references like the eye cream, for example, is, you know, firm offer, which is a reference to a negotiation and somebody gives you a firm offer and, you know, you decide whether you're going to take it or not. So, you know, I joke that this is like sort of the CEO's beauty brand.
I love that.
You know, it's like the smart woman's beauty brand because it's going to be, you know, high performance, beautiful, luxury. She's going to feel great when she pulls it out of her bag. And that's really, you know, that's really kind of my dream. So in terms of the feminist, you know, vibe, I think this is just an organic expression of Jill and me being the co-founders of this brand, being in our 50s, and really just doing what we want to do. It's like, we know it's only beauty. It's not the beginning and the end of anything, but why not have a little fun, raise a little awareness, and, and possibly do something more meaningful, I'm hoping, momentarily.
I love that. And so the other big major news coming in tandem with this lipstick launch is you are going into Sephora. Before we started recording, we talked a little about sort of how this brand fits into the Sephora ecosystem. Tell me about your early conversations with Sephora and your answer to that question of how the brand fits into that space.
Yeah, I mean, this was something that just happened, again, pretty organically, because I know these amazing women over at Sephora. And so one of them had asked me, what was I up to? She's like, it's awfully quiet over at the Creal camp. And I said, believe it or not, I'm working on my own brand. And she was like, I want to see this when I come to New York. So she did. I showed it to her. And,
a while ago.
This was it wasn't that long ago. It was like February.
Okay. And the brand guys launched in June.
In June. And I was pretty far along, but it wasn't my, like, I have to launch this in a retailer. I was so focused on like creating the formulas, creating the beautiful packaging, creating the branding, and bringing it all together and getting that right. And I knew if I got that right, the rest would follow. I figured, the investment would follow, the retail partnerships would follow, that was my thinking. So I was pretty deep in, and she came to New York and I was able to show her where I was, which was pretty far along. And she said to me, okay, she's like, this is great. She goes, I can tell you this customer is definitely underserved in the beauty arena, and you definitely have something here, which was actually quite high praise. So she said, but I would like Amy Abrams to see this, who is the vice president over there of All Color. And so I said, okay, great. So Amy and I knew each other from before, a little back and forth. She came to New York and I showed her at that point, which was probably in April, maybe, a pretty done line, the launch lineup. And she walks in and she's like, oh my God, I can't believe this is like, is this ready to go? And I'm like, well, actually, we are going to launch June 3rd. And she's like, oh my God. She's like, show me everything. So I showed her everything. I showed her all the formulas. And, what is so interesting is that just as the face of investment is really male, the face of retail is largely female. And Sephora is a great example of that, from Artemis Patrick as CEO to Priya to Allison to Amy. It's all these incredible, powerful women. And so Amy said to me in that meeting, I love this and I would love to launch this with you exclusively as soon as you can, whenever that would be. What do you think? Which I was not prepared for in that meeting. It was amazing. It was so amazing. It actually, when I said goodbye to her that day, I had tears in my eyes because obviously this is a very personal endeavor for me, but I was so touched how enthusiastic she was and how she saw the brand for what it was. And that's the beauty of, Sephora, they are unbelievable brand builders.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. In terms of the customer being underserved, what more can you tell us about that? I can think of luxury skincare brands at Sephora or in general, some not at Sephora, some of which are new and extremely high priced. I can think of some sort of staid conglomerate brands that haven't done much to evolve and meet the more modern woman. And I can think of some brands like Jones Road that are doing amazingly with older women, but have stayed mostly direct to, or like almost entirely direct to consumer. What else can you tell us about sort of this opportunity for you at Sephora and for the brand at Sephora?
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to believe that in 2024, this is a trailblazing situation. But the fact that we are only photographing women 40 plus and only showing women 40 plus in all of our product applications and advertisements, et cetera, is a big deal. And that combined with the fact that I'm showing this in a way that I think is powerful, aspirational, God forbid, sexy, and fun, all of that combined. I want women who are 40 plus to love beauty the way they loved it in their 20s. I want them to feel seen and to see other women and, and enjoy it. And also, and it's not like I have, no insecurities. Believe me, I'm doing all of these videos with no filters, some of them with no makeup, applying products. And I have insecurities. Everybody has insecurities, but we need to just show ourselves and take up space in the beauty sector in order to be able to have a world that we want to inhabit,
Yeah.
It sounds kind of grandiose, I guess, but that's really what I want to create. I want women to feel excited and they have a belonging in the beauty industry.
I think that's really one of my last questions is video and you getting in front of the camera. At the start of our conversation, we talked about education and that being a key component of the brand and something that came back in the surveys. Is that one of the main ways that you're doing it?
Yes, it really is. It really is. And it's just, I show myself putting on product. How do I use it? Where does it go? And how do the products work together? And, and this was one of the first things that we got questions about when we launched. Where do I start? Because it's not that they don't know what to do. It's just that the information has been absolutely overwhelming. Do I need 20 steps? And the reality is, no, you don't. Nope. If the steps you're using are efficacious, you do not need that many steps, So I love, and I always have loved, I have two sisters, I have a mother, I have a stepmother, and I've always loved explaining how products work in a super simple kind of way, but in a respectful way. It's not like I'm talking down to anybody. I just want to share the way things work. Like, why does this work so well? People ask all the time, like the moisture source. It's a biphase liquid moisturizer. And, most people think that a really good moisturizer is going to look like a cream.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, the thing is binders, which put an oil phase and a water phase together, bind them together, are actually quite sticky and can actually prevent penetration of moisture into the skin. So, I love educating and talking about why things work.
Amazing. Honestly, I could ask you 45 more questions and talk to you for 4 more hours, but congratulations.
I can talk with you. Thank you.
This was so fun. Everybody, the brand is launching at Sephora soon. You'll see it there soon. Thank you so much for coming on the Glossy Beauty Podcast, Sarah.
Oh, thank you so much, Sarah. It's been a great time. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Glossy Beauty Podcast. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. It really does help us out. And of course, visit glossy.co/beauty for even more coverage of the beauty industry. Bye!